morning, Shasta County. You're listening to All Things Real Estate with Kurt Largent, Roof Angel. Today we have a lot to cover. We have a guest in the studio, Lance Berry from CAL FIRE. He's a battalion chief.
I'm the Fire Prevention Bureau Chief, so fire prevention is one of my priorities, and so yes, working with the press is in that wheelhouse.
Very good. Okay, so we're kicking off Wildfire Awareness Week, May 3rd through May 9th. Again, this is the homeowner's responsibility. So what sort of things can you talk about, that your programs that you're going to have for folks this week?
Well, there's a whole bunch of media events that are happening throughout the state. Close by this week, we also have our annual air tanker training is happening this week. So really what happens is the whole point of defensible space is you're not really removing the fuel, as in making the fuel go away and disappear, unless you're chipping it and hauling it away or something like that. Really all you're doing is taking the grass that's in a vertical arrangement, if you will, the grass that's standing straight up, and you're cutting that grass and laying it down. So when you do that, it changes the characteristics of how fast it burns. So by cutting the grass down to 4 inches or less, the fuel is still there. The amount of fuel, the tonnage of grass is basically still there on the ground, but now it's breaking down a little faster. It's, going back into, rotting or whatever you want to call it. And then when the fire moves through, the flame links off of that fuel, it will be a lot shorter, a lot lower, and the heat output will be a lot less, and generally the spread will be a lot less if it's, depending on the day, of course, but it just reduces the intensity of the fire. So just that alone, reducing the intensity of the fire will keep your trees, or can help your trees survive a fire. The second part of that is limbing up all the trees. So that even if the grass does, try to climb up a tree, or how sometimes oak trees will touch all the way to the ground, or right. Pine trees, all that, young pine trees, if you can basically go in there and, like you said, 6 feet high. So really what you want to do is cut down, 4 inches, grass down to 4 inches, and then walk through your area, and anything that hits you in the head, take some loppers and just cut it off. Readyforwildfire.org is really good. It's got all these resources on it that talks about checklists and stuff. But let's say it is time to evacuate. You've gotten that reverse 911 call, the notifier from SHASCOM, which is how we do it, through the Sheriff's Department, working closely with the Sheriff's Department on evacuations. The first thing you want to do is run around inside your house and shut all the windows and doors, but leave them unlocked. Because remember, when this evacuation happens, no one's going to get in. You're going to leave, and no one's coming in except fire trucks. So it's okay to leave it unlocked. There's not going to be a bunch of prowlers running around. That's what the sheriffs are there for, and that's part of why they do those hard road closures, is to keep anybody out that can come in and start borrowing your stuff from you.
I never really thought about that. It's the first thing I do. I mean, it's habit.
Yep.
I'm not sure I would remember that.
That's all right. We have ways around that. But, yeah, certainly try to leave them unlocked, because that allows we may need to dive into your house real fast to check for an extension if there was a fire on the roof or whatever. We need to get access to your attic or something like that. If you have any shutters that are metal, something like that, some houses do. Not too common around here, but you can shut those shutters. You want to definitely close your curtains, especially if they're heavy curtains. You want to close those curtains across your windows. If they're really lightweight, lacy curtains, you may want to just take those off if they're easy to do, or pull them back from the windows, because there has been documented cases of the heat from outside the window basically igniting the easily flammable lightweight curtains inside the house. So you'll always want to leave your lights on. Leave the lights on, especially exterior lights on at the house. So, because when the fire comes, it gets very smoky, it's hard to see, and the firefighters can pick out that, oh, look, there's a house up this driveway, and sometimes that may be their only clue that there's a house somewhere on that hillside, is if they look up the hill and they can see lights. So that's because a lot of times the firefighters are out of the area too. We're bringing in all these resources. They're not really going to know, your neighborhood, like your volunteer company or your fire department would know exactly where your house is. If they're coming from, Chico or Siskiyou County, they're not going to know. It's probably not one of the things you need to consider about turning on all the sprinklers before you leave is that you may be taking water out of the hydrant system that somebody needs down the way to protect their house. So at that point, it's pretty much it's kind of too late now, kind of a situation. So we advise really not turning on all the sprinklers on all exterior sides of the house, because you're just depleting the water supply. Maybe the engine needs down the road to put out the structures.
So I'm taking off I start the sprinklers before, but when I'm leaving, make sure they're off.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.